What if astrology is actually about seasons, not stars? Every day, millions of people check their horoscopes. Not because they believe the planets are controlling their lives, but because, strangely, some of the personality traits tied to zodiac signs feel accurate. But what if the truth behind those traits has nothing to do with the stars? Here's a theory. Astrology might be symbolically accurate, not because of the cosmos, but because it reflects the time of year we were born. Let me explain. The season you're born in might shape who you become. Modern psychology has long studied the idea of season of birth effects, the theory that the season you're born in can influence your development, especially in infancy. Research suggests your birth month may affect things like your circadian rhythm, sleep and mood cycles, early social exposure, brain development, especially from maternal vitamin D levels during pregnancy, even personality traits like optimism, attention span, and emotional regulation. Babies go through major developmental changes between 4 to 10 months, crawling, exploring, bonding, forming emotional blueprints. The environment during that window matters. The light, the temperature, how often people are around, how much time is spent outdoors versus indoors. Now imagine how different those environments are depending on what season you're born into. Enter the zodiac as a seasonal map. What if zodiac archetypes, like adventurous Sagittarius or homebody Cancer, are echoes of the emotional and sensory atmosphere we're exposed to as babies? Sagittarius, Navdek. A 6-month-old Sag baby experiences summer, freedom, outdoor play, movement. Could this support the classic Sagittarian wanderer energy? Cancer, June-July. A Cancer baby's early development happens in winter. Intimate bonding, cozy indoor time. Could that shape a nurturing, inward-focused personality? Leo, July-Aug. Leos are born during festive, socially vibrant summers. Maybe their confidence and charisma come from early exposure to attention and celebration. Scorpio, Octave. Born into darker, quieter months with less external stimulation. Could this lead to deeper emotional sensitivity and introversion? These are just patterns, not rules. But they raise the idea that astrology might be a symbolic record of environmental influence, not planetary alignment. The science isn't perfect, but its growing researchers have found subtle but persistent correlations between birth season and mood disorders, intelligence and academic achievement, introversion, extroversion, risk-taking versus risk aversion. These effects aren't absolute. They don't predict personality, but they point to something real. The context of your first year of life matters. Astrology may have noticed that and turned it into metaphor. Maybe astrology was always earth-based. For most of history, people lived close to the land. They planted, harvested, birthed children, and grieved with the rhythm of the seasons. It makes sense that they'd notice patterns, in people as well as plants. Maybe astrology isn't mystical. Maybe it's a calendar of archetypes, a poetic system built not on stars but on sunlight, temperature, timing, and emotion. And that's what makes it feel true to so many of us. The psychology of birth seasons. So how does the time of year you're born may subtly shape your mind? We tend to think of personality as something formed by family, culture, maybe even genetics. But what if the time of year you were born plays a quiet, lasting role in shaping who you become? Not in a mystical, horoscope-driven way, but in the very real sense that the seasonal environment during infancy and pregnancy affects development, biologically, emotionally, socially. This essay explores what researchers call season of birth effects, subtle psychological and physical influences linked to the months surrounding your birth, and how they might provide a rational framework for the archetypes we associate with zodiac signs. What are season of birth effects? The term refers to measurable differences in people's physical health, psychological traits, or developmental outcomes that correlate with the season they were born. Researchers have identified links between birth season and mood disorders, e.g. depression, bipolar, attention span and cognitive style, immune development, sleep-wake cycles, circadian rhythms, risk-taking behavior, introversion and sociability, even educational attainment. These differences are often small at the individual level, but across large populations, they appear consistently enough to raise serious questions. How does season matter? The developmental logic. There are several ways the season of your birth can influence your development. Light exposure. The amount of daylight during your early infancy affects your body clock, circadian rhythm, melatonin levels, and later mood regulation. Babies born in spring-summer get more daylight during critical neurodevelopmental windows, possibly leading to more positive affect and energy levels later on. 2. Maternal vitamin D. The season during pregnancy can influence a mother's vitamin D levels, which are crucial to fetal brain development. Babies gestated mostly in winter may be more vulnerable to neurodevelopmental risks due to lower maternal vitamin D. 3. Infection exposure. Some studies suggest that maternal exposure to viruses, like the flu, during pregnancy, more common in winter months, may increase risks for neurological or psychiatric conditions, including schizophrenia or ADHD. 4. Social environment. A baby born in summer may experience their first social months outdoors, active, stimulated, while winter-born babies are typically raised indoors in quieter, more intimate spaces. These early social dynamics may subtly influence personality formation, shaping attachment, emotional regulation, and exploratory behavior. What the studies show here are just a few findings that support these effects. A European Journal of Personality Study, 2009, found spring and summer births associated with higher novelty-seeking and extroversion. A Nature neuroscience study found that the biological clock is calibrated differently depending on birth season, which affects sleep, alertness, and emotional regulation. Studies in Japan and China have linked birth month with differences in temperament, school performance, and even risk of asthma and allergies. It's not deterministic, but the patterns are there. The season we're born into has an emotional tone, bright or dark, quiet or chaotic, warm or cold, and that tone imprints on our earliest nervous system development. A bridge to archetypes? If season of birth effects are real, could that explain why zodiac signs feel accurate, even if astrology itself isn't? Let's consider. Leo, July-August. Babies are born into bright light, celebration, social heat, the performer archetype. Pisces, Feb-March. Born into soft, muted transitions before spring, the sensitive dreamer archetype. Scorpio, Octave. Darkness deepening, more solitude, the intense private archetype. It's not the stars, it's the climate of your first year. Maybe astrology survived for thousands of years because it noticed patterns we still haven't fully understood. What this means for the seasonal self. This framework doesn't require belief in fate, energy, or star signs. It simply suggests who we are might be quietly shaped by when we arrive, and the world we first meet. Future essays in The Seasonal Self will explore a month-by-month breakdown of zodiac traits as developmental reflections, parenting and early childhood through a seasonal lens, how reframing astrology symbolically, not superstitiously, might help us understand ourselves more deeply. Reflective prompt. Were you born in summer, winter, spring, or autumn? What kind of emotional tone did the world have when you were a baby? Could that environment have left its mark on you in ways you've never noticed?